So you can talk by writing or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Louisa, thank you so much for making the time to meet. It's wonderful that I've finally put a face to the name. We've only been corresponding on the phone and email, but I'm so pleased that you're able to join us today.
And my apologies for forgetting the appointment at 2.
It's okay.
I had gone to play tennis.
Oh, wow. Oh, we see you're in a golf shirt and a cap. Okay, well, I'm glad you were able to come back. So, now, Louisa, because we have a number of people who, unfortunately, because we can't connect to the other computers and project, everybody will have to kind of come past the screen to see you. But perhaps so we can begin the conversation. If you don't mind just introducing yourself to what I've kind of done with everybody is tell us, if you can, who you are and what you do and how you got to do what you do.
Hello, everyone. My name is Louisa Mojela. I come from Mahemeng, Tsagolo, Mafeteng. I'm currently the Group Chief Executive Officer of Women Investment Portfolio Holdings, WIPHOLD, in South Africa, and I am also the founding member of the company.
Yes.
WIPHOLD is a company that is dedicated to the empowerment of women.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for the introduction. So, Louisa, just to ease into things, I just want to tell you a little bit about why this is happening. Firstly, we're in Rega Maida House right now, which is the oldest recorded building in the country. And it's really special, actually, that we're able to Skype and do such very technologically advanced things here. And I think the interest of the focus of the project is Morija as a kind of creative hub, and bringing not outsiders in, but rona batho ba Lesotho that are perhaps operating across the border on the other end. But I recall when I had a brief conversation with you, one of the main things you said was you do not consider yourself a member of the diaspora. You are actively engaged in Lesotho, in as much as you would be if you lived here. So, I mean, that was a really interesting thought for me. I'm interested, that then kind of made me pose the question, Yari, what do you consider a diaspora? What are your definitions what are your understandings of the ideas of diaspora and how it operates?
My understanding of somebody who calls himself or herself a diaspora is somebody who says, once upon a time, I used to consider myself a Mosotho and Lesotho my country, my home, but I have since found a new home, a new country, new citizenship, and therefore my only connection with that particular former country is my ancestral connection. And hence, for me, when I was talking to you, I said, no, I do not consider myself to be, part of a diaspora. I want to consider myself as a Mosotho. I actually consider myself to be somebody who is a migrant laborer, just like the miners, Basotho miners, who leave home to come and look for greener pastures, but who, periodically they go back home. Okay. And that's exactly what I do. In fact, I don't think I go home periodically. I go home as often as once a month or twice a month, or sometimes, 4 times a month.
Yeah.
Right in my village there, because that's part of me, and I can't take that away out of me. Yeah. So if I was a member of diaspora, I'm sure I would visit home once or ever, occasionally, because now I would have considered myself, to belong to another country, citizenship, and so on and so forth.
Okay. I mean, I think my approach and my understanding of the idea of the diaspora, the reason I would have kind of phrased this platform as a diaspora dialogue is because for me, um, you know, it's for lack of a better word, it's you're a Mosotho and I actually am living elsewhere, Kidula in South Africa. Fela Lena Lesotho is very much when I say I'm going home, I talk about that's Lesotho will always be home. My parents are here, my extended family is here. So fortunately living in Johannesburg, we can literally come up every like third weekend. So I think for me, the idea of a diaspora, of what it means to be a member of the diaspora, is kind of about how to engage with the country, although you are remote, you're based remotely, you're based somewhere else. And this particular platform, this project is really trying to do that. It's about connecting people who are in different places and not necessarily physically in Lesotho right now, for one moment of a conversation where we can actually speak as people baling elsewhere, and one another as well, to kind of see how we can get involved with things that are happening at home. So this is my little small way of trying to create that dialogue. Felt like yeah, I am sort of eclipsed by your shadow, where now you are very much active Lesotho Monana in terms of the various projects you do with women. And I was hoping perhaps you could tell everybody what kind of things you've done over the years, and you continue to do. Monana, hi.
Okay, in my village there, Mahimeng, I started a piggery project for the women of the village. And in the bigger part of Tlhagolo, I also implemented an agri-business farming where we came together with the communities there, because I realized that they have these vast pieces of land that are lying fallow. They are not planted for obvious reasons that people do not have resources to do so. So I decided to enter into a partnership with them, whereby we plow the fields, and at the end of the harvest, we split the produce 30-70%. And the 70% we sell it and convert that into cash that goes into the kitty for the Makauta Development Trust. Makauta Development Trust is a trust that we started, I think 2 or 3 years ago, with the aim of providing, educational, financial support for the Mafeteng children who pass or passes their standard 6 with a first class and getting ready to go to university, and realizing that they might not have enough resources. So the trust was established for that purpose. So that's exactly what I think it's against this background that I consider myself just as a migrant laborer who come back home to make sure that I do those projects that continue to benefit my communities, as well as the children who are our future leaders of tomorrow.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's really great to hear. I think your initiatives are inspiring. I'm hoping with every conversation, I kind of keep roping everybody into starting up initiatives. I mean, in as much as this is a small one and is one of the first, I hope that it will continue and I'll be able to engage more actively like you are. Mama Tapo called out, I know, this is a man, Pepsi. The first thing she said to Pepsi Pokane was, "When are you coming home?" That was the very first conversation, point of conversation. So, I mean, this is kind of in the direction of the talks today. I'd like to, what I've asked to several of the participants is one question that I think is quite pertinent. I think I want to know how being a Mosotho has impacted, your understanding of the field that you are in and your work, all the work that you have done. How being a Mosotho has influenced this and contributed towards your understandings of the world at large, and also your business and social endeavors.
I think the first thing that has impacted me that I can talk proudly of being a Muslim
Hello?
is that is a Lesotho culture that is imbued in most of us as Basotho to learn humility. It doesn't matter how much you can achieve in life or how many mentors or, whatever that you can have, but being humble. To me, it's something that I always think that it's really imbued in us as Basothos.
Yes.
Or as a Mosotho child. And just being able to live peacefully. We come from a history of a founder of a Basotho who was a man of peace, who loved peace. So it doesn't matter where, I go, which country I visit. And by the way, I consider myself as somebody who has traveled extensively. And every time, wherever I go, I tell them that I come from Lesotho, and Lesotho people are very peace-loving people. They are very humble people. They are always smiley people, except, I must say, the people at immigration. They don't smile at people. Those are your responsibilities now as, government people. But generally, Basotho people are very, very humble, very, welcoming, peaceful, so on and so forth. So that is one part of it. And I guess also coming from a small country as Lesotho, coming to South Africa, which is by no means much bigger, whether it's size or economy, is by far much bigger than Lesotho. So you always want to do your very best. You always want to do your very best, irrespective of the fact that you come from this little village, a rural village for that matter, and you are immense, among these many South Africans that come from whatever corner of this country. So the most important thing is always to say, I will do my very best. I will try, to perform to the best of my ability. And remembering also that in the Lesotho culture also, a child belongs to the community, to the village. So whatever I do, I'm always mindful that, I must make sure that I do everything with the greatest of integrity in place, because if I were to do anything that will embarrass, that is embarrassing, I would have not only embarrassed myself or my family, but my community back there in Lesotho would be embarrassed. So these are the little things that to me, I hold them in the highest esteem.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, and I think I was hoping that everybody would, but the camera shy. So in Teki and Tengore, I made some cue cards for people to pick up and come and ask you questions. I welcome anybody to please come through if you're feeling comfortable enough to ask. Please come this side.
Louisa. Louisa, I had to talking about Basotho as peace-loving people. That is one aspect why Morija Arts and Culture was founded on. And if I can remind you, this was done 15 years ago when we really had a good time in here. in Lesotho, and one of the thoughts of the people who started it, the founding members, like Bo Mema Mahato, this, and she's a patron of this. Now it's Me Masinati, who is now the patron of Morija Arts and Culture. The reason was also to make sure that Basotho go back to to being peaceful. So we are happy that you, as the descendants of that family, do remember that you have to continue being a loving people, Basotho. And we appreciate that you have agreed to come into this. The reason why we said Lerato should try and find you is because we know the contribution that you have done, and not only that, you as a family member, and also reminding ourselves that now Morija, it's where, if this is the oldest house that we are in now, but we also have we are also happy that this Majesty was born here 50 years ago. So when Rato came out with this project, we said start it, and we probably can build around it on the arts that we are not doing much on it, on Morija Arts and Culture, and continue and mark it amongst the 50th birthday of His Majesty. And we are glad that you came in this particular one. We know that we are doing a lot in trying to assist women. We hope we are not going to end up in Magauteng, and we are not. I know we have done that with women in business here in Lesotho. We would like to ask you the question on what would you say to young Basotho who are here, who would want to be in a position that you are in now, who would be, you have built, we say you have contributed a lot in South African economy, especially in women. And we are saying, what is it that we can say to young women here in Lesotho that we could also get into the type of work that you do, and how you and Bolerato would come back home and help Morija and Basotho to alleviate the poverty that we are in now?
You sound like you're conversing, Mema Seko.
This is my constituency.
Being a constituency, Morija being one of your constituencies. Now, if you remember, I always say, give me a task, and I do not believe that there's any task that is larger than life, and that cannot be, that can be insurmountable. If there is a request for us to contribute to Morija in whatever form and shape, one should always, make herself available and look at, how best that can be achieved. And as far as the young girl child or the young women are concerned, I've always availed myself to whoever that wants to sit, with me and just discuss issues of business, and I'm always available even to mentor those who want, mentoring, because truly speaking, I always remind many of these women whenever they call me that, don't forget that once upon a time I was just like any one of you, working there at LNDC, walking from where I was staying to the office and back as a pedestrian. But in life, you always, set the bar high for yourself. And if you don't do that, nobody's going to set, that bar as high as you want to. So I'm pleased that I was able to do that and tell myself that nothing ventured, nothing gained. So everybody must take that attitude, but also bearing in mind that whatever you want to do and achieve, be passionate, show that passion, and be committed to it, because you cannot start something today and tomorrow you dump it and you embark on something else. Commitment is absolutely key, because being in business is also not for the sissies. It's very difficult. You'll always have the highs and lows. And when you reach the highs, make sure that you grab that opportunity and make sure that it doesn't slip away from you. When you are also, reaching your down, downs, make sure that it doesn't, completely deflect you. Tell yourself that, I will still have, the energy to pull myself up. That is always important.
Thank you, Mela, to give other people chance.
Yes, Louisa, I want to ask you just a question about, on that note about being a woman in business. How challenging did you find it? As a very accomplished, one of the most accomplished female CEOs in South Africa and in Lesotho, how difficult was it as a woman to kind of get in there in terms of business and be taken seriously and accomplish what you have accomplished? I know I watched a YouTube clip about where you were talking about how young women actually just need to get off their asses and do things. So I'm wondering, how difficult was your journey, and what, like Meta, just to extend Metapo's question, what advice would you give to a young Kore? Is not just in terms of, they can come to you for mentorship, but what advice would you give to a young business, aspiring businesswoman?
I think exactly what I've just said to Metapo, but maybe let me phrase it differently, because the most important thing is to have that audacity to dare to be in business. Because if you're not daring and you have one foot in and one foot out, then you are not going to make it. Have that daring audacity. Tell yourself that this is what I want to do. This is what I want to achieve. Because I can promise you, 20 years ago, by the way, Wipold will be celebrating its 20th anniversary next year. So 20 years ago, the challenges that we faced as women, believe you me, they still exist even today. Business is still domain of men, and white men, for that matter, here in South Africa. The same challenges of having access to capital still exist even today for women. The same issues of lack of networking, which are some of the challenges for women, because women naturally, you will not find them, in golf courses where they go play golf, and after playing golf, they embark on a discussion, and that discussion might lead into business. Women don't do that, because half the time our commitment is work, and from work is home to our children. So networking, access to capital, access to resources, access to just being in a position to achieve exactly what you want to achieve, it is still there today. But the difference is, one has to have that audacity. One has to be daring, have that dogged determination to tell yourself that irrespective of all of this, I have set the bar for myself and I will achieve what I want to achieve.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So I think somebody wants to come and ask a question.
Manager, can she hear me? Okay. Let's school National University. She can't hear me.
We cannot school, okay?
National University of Lesotho.
Yes.
Anyway, and I'm aware that you went to school there as well.
Yes.
What I would like to ask, from talking about women in particular, but talk about entrepreneurial orientation for Basotho ba banyane kaofela. What we see in the country at the moment is that business is taken as a contingency plan. All of us are flocking towards being employed. None of us in the country want to actually sit down and start our own businesses. What can you say to young people about that, and what do you think can be done by Batubeka Rangwena, who maybe can mentor but wasn't by a study in any other field, not necessarily business alone at the National University, but so much that each one of us can say, after I have gotten my degree, before I can go back and further my studies, I can do something about the skills that I've gotten. What do you say about that?
Obviously, entrepreneurship is very key towards economic development of the country. That's the starting point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, realizing that not everybody is an entrepreneur, and therefore, while one will urge, the country will urge the Minister of Trade and Industry to open up a space, to create that enabling environment, and create policies and frameworks that can encourage entrepreneurship, because unless the government itself is not committed to supporting entrepreneurship, then it's a little bit challenged, because with all our successes here in South Africa, I think people need to be reminded of the fact that the framework and policies that the government put together for this Black economic empowerment, it was also very, very, very helpful. So equally in the country, you may not have, to drive Black economic empowerment, because Lesotho there was nobody who amassed, the national assets or the national resources. We are all the same, but things like tenders, the government can encourage, to give small business people, open up, certain tenders to them. The big tenders, like, when your big dam is being constructed, the government can encourage also that whichever big companies that are coming to bid for such tenders, they must make sure that they partner with local entrepreneurs, because in that case, you not only are in business, but you begin also to learn, the skills of being in business as an entrepreneur, and, you move forward. But at the same time, entrepreneurship means being able to take risks, because no risk, no gains. So people need to understand that as well, that being an entrepreneur, it doesn't just mean that you'll come in and hit it big. You've got to be prepared that you'll sacrifice so many things just in order to be able to get to the level where you want to be.
Okay. Okay, Louisa. Would you want to ask a question? Come. Okay. I don't know if anybody in the space would like to say anything before I wrap up. Just come. Mema Khabele is approaching the stand. She will be here now. Can you hold on just a moment, please?
Hello, Louisa.
Hello, Mayor. I like your head.
Oh, thank you. I'll send it to you. Ke sebetsa National University of Lesotho. One of the things that I thought you'd talk about when you were talking about project was to show or to tell us that as part of alumni for NUL, you have pledged funds for the education of the students at National University of Lesotho. And I wish you could have spelled out maybe that the people to be sponsored should be those doing entrepreneurship, since you are in the field. I really thank you for that. One other thing I would like to say is I'm happy you are talking about a community, that you are injecting something into the community. My question is, was it ideas from you or ideas from the community itself that they should be assisted to do farming? Because I think we are at a stage where we need to mobilize people to create their own ideas and work on them and be able to be responsible. Because if you start telling them do chickens,
I think she's just. Oh no, she's here. She's here. No.
If you tell them what to do, they don't really own. They don't have the ownership for that. So, do people in Takhulu own what they are doing, or are they just threatened by you because you do tell them what to do and not to do?
Okay, man, that's a very simple question to answer because, you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you learn very quickly that the top down or the top down, you know, it doesn't work. You have to come from the bottom up. That's number one. Number two, as you correctly say, you can't dictate to people as to what they should do. All I said to them was, I would like to extend a hand and help you. Tell me how I can help you, you know, what project I should assist you to start so that you can, because the key thing was to make sure that they are engaged and they can do something that will generate some income for them in the future, in the foreseeable future. Because as you know, that in villages, bomme ba tsoa mono ho saying ka 11 o'clock ba sentse ba le leting ba sentse ba etsa jwalo. So my intention was to keep them away from that, make sure that, because this thing that they chose for themselves, because it's ha ke ba botsa ba ile ba re no, they want to do piggery. Ka ba botsa ka re, are you sure tsa mo nahanang hore na le re le batla eng? Ba bang ba re dikgoho. Ka re, you see now, there's a disjoint into what you want to do. So hutlelang morao li tukise li buisaneng letle ho nna with one voice, because I'm not going to do two projects for now. I will only support one project. So go back and decide what you want to do. And that's exactly what they did. They came back, but no, ba buisane ba batla difariki. Batimo, I did not necessarily instruct them what to do. All I said was, every time driving here, I can see that Masimuana Luna ha alingwa, they are lying fallow. And Masimuana, you know, land is money, and it has to be utilized to create money as well. So ebeke ba botsa le bona ke rena hobaneng ba sa leme ba re kannete re a rata re banna ba Basotho re bomme ba Basotho temo ke ntho e ya bohlokwa ho rona, but ha re na bohona hore re ka lema. I had to ask them that if we were to come with a project which is no different from, I understand what the government does or used to do previously. They actually thought that that's a brilliant idea. We should do that. And I had to also suggest that because we don't have tractors, we should hire bona balimi ba hae mono ba nang le di-tractor, at least le bona ba be le income e ba generatelang. Hire them to do the plowing and they get paid. So nobody was instructed, me.
Ya leboa mme gobane ke yona ntho e re tshwanetseng gore re rute batho mona Lesotho, gobane hangata o tla bona ba dutse ba sa etse letho, motho a sita lo lema jarete ya hae fela. Nna ke a tseba
Exactly.
o entse dintho tse ngata le ka nako e nngwe o latla mona o thaketse setsi sa Institute of Extramural Studies o bua ka dintho tsa stock market. Ke a kgola ka nako eno ne re sa utlwe le ka ditsebeng na o ntso reng, empa o ntso le ka gore bontsha ditsela ka mekgwa e mengata. Mme nna ke a tseba gore o mme wa Lesotho mona ya sebetsang ka thata gore Basotho ba tswele pele, mme o tshwara letsoho le o tie. Ke a leboa mme.
Ke a leboa mme.
Okay, Louisa, I just want to wrap up, I think one more comment and then I'm going to wrap up. Yes? Okay.
Louisa,
Hello, me.
mme wa phela che kutlwile. Me all I was saying.
Kima.
Nna ke nte ke me wa lerato. Wa mpona?
Oh.
Mpone hantle.
O tlo babysitter o se pente.
Mme ke tlo babysitter. Fela ke re no, I had to make it check it. You're great, kannete, your support, we appreciate. We appreciate all that you've done, that we know you have done, and you touched my heart because you're really in my field. I am where I am at the central bank. I am in non-banks and actually working on enabling environment for this kind of field, for access to financial services
for the low income, which is, I think, where you are now. And I think we should strive to get, this happen and make a success of it. All I was saying was, now that you're in Lesotho and South Africa, I know you're always here. I know you drive projects from wherever you are. In South Africa, can you now assist? How do you think you can do to assist the diaspora? I know you said you're not part of the diaspora, but at least you should be a model to those in South Africa. So those that you meet, can you give them the recipe? How do you think you can go about it for them to follow your steps? Because we really appreciate what you're doing, May. We wish many of you can do this, those that are outside the country, not just in South Africa, actually, internationally. So I think that is my kind of comment, question, if it is. Do you ever think of actually encouraging others
mobilizing
to follow,
the
or if you can do it?
I don't know about others, but at least I know homeboys like Paco Petlana, Litabisotla, are all Mafiteng people.
Yes.
I know that they are also doing a lot back at home.
Yeah.
So, chair, retlaleka ribuele diaspora hey, let's not forget home.
In the wine glass, you meet often, I know, in those cocktails and things. It's goodness to forward for others to appreciate. Thank you, May. Bye-bye.
May, thank you so much.
There should be that beautiful advert. Yeah, Ntate Moholo, yeah, Lesotho tourism way back. I don't know if Lesotho still has that. And it was a beautiful poster. I left my heart in Lesotho.
Oh, wow.
So maybe most people must remember that irrespective of wherever they are, their heart must always be left in Lesotho.
Yeah, that's a very beautiful way to conclude. May I thank you very much for taking the time, and I hope those of us who are the diaspora, or at least that think we are diaspora, or actually we must consider ourselves citizens of this country in as much as we are out of it. Yes, so thank you very much, and I look forward hopefully to some mentorship. And also take the kind of cue you've given us.
Thank you very much, Lerato, for giving me this opportunity, and thank you to all the panelists. Have a very wonderful weekend. Thank you. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.